The first furry character I ever made was a woman. That was a sign I wasn't cisgender. But at the time, in middle school, I insecurely thought it proved I was just like my friends seemed to be, a boy who liked girls. The girls I liked just happened to be fat cartoon animals. The first one I made was a Yoshi woman named Yoshita. I wasn't good at names. Later, I made a Yoshi man who looked like I did in real life at the time. I named this mustached Yoshi Mustoshi. I especially wasn't good at pun names. Even though I'd drawn Yoshita first, and way more often, I chose Mustoshi to be my Fursona, or furry persona/avatar, when I eventually started posting drawings online. It didn't even occur to me that Yoshita was an option. To me, it was a given that I was a guy and that I needed a guy to represent me. Sexism is so widespread, it even puts imaginary characters out of work. When drawing or role-playing Mustoshi and Yoshita together, I often portrayed her as resentful of him for 3 subconscious reasons. 1. My feminine side hated how my masculine side had stolen the spotlight. 2. I thought it was a bad fit to have a man as my avatar. And 3. My characters were partly based on my birth parents. I ended up using Mustoshi so much, I almost forgot about Yoshita. That's a metaphor for how I suppressed my feminine side until I barely thought about it, which is one of the reasons I ended up hating myself. I won't get into the others right now. After all, it's Pride Month, not Shame Month. Fast forward to 3 years ago, when Fire Emblem Engage dropped. I hated it, but I'll save that for another video. I did like a few things about Engage, mainly the character designs. So many of the women had insanely long hair. It was like, oops, all Rapunzels. One of them is the woman version of the protagonist, who looks ridiculous. She's like an anime girl version of Pepsi Man. Still, I liked her long hair, so I picked her. I didn't like her default name, so I gave her the feminine version of my government name. I told a friend, and they half-jokingly offered to call me that name. I took them up on it, and enjoyed being called that way more than I'd expected. It's like when a bunch of people, myself included, started watching My Little Pony ironically, and ended up liking it. Since I'm a brony and furry, it's unsurprising I have multiple trans women friends. I told them I was questioning my gender identity, and asked how they found out they were women. They all had their own experiences, but none of them sounded like mine, since I didn't identify as a woman. I didn't envy cis women's faces, bodies, or voices. I didn't want to wear women's clothes, use lipstick or perfume, start hormone replacement therapy, or take any other major steps to express myself as a woman. After all, transitioning could affect my voice, and why mess with perfection? Having been conditioned most of my life to think there's just 2 genders, I thought those were the only 2 things I could identify as. I figured, since I wasn't a woman, I must have been a man after all, so I just shrugged and moved on. That said, Engage did inspire me to make a new Fursona. I'd already been considering that for a while, since I was having second thoughts about my Fursona being a member of a species owned by a company that loves to sue. But that was just a reason to move on from Mustoshi. It wasn't until Engage that I knew what I wanted in a new Fursona. A long-haired woman of my own. Like Pepsi Girl, but good. I no longer looked like Mustoshi in real life, and even if I did, I wanted a Fursona who reflected my likes, not my looks. I spent a couple years brainstorming and making decisions, before I finally finished my plans for Terra Softa, a combination of every single thing I like in characters. No wonder she's huge. Last year, I commissioned an artist named Tumbeetle for a ref sheet, and they'd made Terra even more beautiful than I could have imagined. That woke something in me. Originally, I thought Terra would just be a drag Fursona, but when I saw her, I didn't just want to play her. I wanted to be her. Not that I identify as a wolf. It's a gender thing, not a species thing. I'm not otherkin. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Even though I finally realized I didn't identify as a man, I still didn't identify as a woman either. By that point, I knew some people were non-binary, or Enby for short. One definition of Enby is a person who identifies with or expresses a gender identity that is neither entirely male nor entirely female. If that's confusing, don't worry. I am one, and it confuses me too. Some treat Enby as synonymous with genderqueer. Others treat genderqueer as an umbrella term that can include not only Enbys, but also anyone else who doesn't identify or express their gender within the gender binary. In other words, genderqueer can include people all over the gender spectrum and people not on that spectrum at all. That is, agender or genderless people. So genderqueer is like the dot and the I in Jeremy Bearimy. It's Tuesdays, and also July. And sometimes it's never. Some Enbys identify as trans, and some don't. I didn't at first. I thought it might seem confusing or misleading, since trans usually makes people think of trans men and women who don't identify as Enbys. It's like this person I knew in college who said, "I don't know whether I belong at events for international students. There's people from all over the world, while I'm Canadian. But a friend convinced me I was technically trans using my one weakness, the dictionary. So I changed my mind. It's a rare occurrence, like a double rainbow, or someone on the internet saying, you know what? You've convinced me I was wrong. Just as I initially didn't identify as trans after realizing I was Enby, I initially didn't identify as Enby after realizing I wanted to be Tara. There were 3 reasons for my reluctance to identify as Enby. 1, I'm very black and white, especially in my own self-judgment, so I didn't like the idea of not being at just one traditional corner of the gender spectrum. 2, although I knew different Enbys have different pronouns, I still associated Enbys with they-them. Although I'll gladly use they-them for others, they felt too impersonal to be my pronouns, since you use they-them when you don't know someone's pronouns. Meanwhile, if my pronouns were still he-him, or changed to she-her, people might mistakenly think I identify as a man or woman. Finally, 3, I knew being Enby would be even harder to explain than being a trans woman. By now, many cis people know what trans people are. Some hate them anyway, but that's another story. In any case, few people know what Enbys are. I knew I'd have to deal with an extra layer of confusion and ignorance, including from well-meaning people who still think of gender as a binary, and are like, if you transition, go all the way. All that initially held me back from identifying as Enby. Luckily, my mind was changed by a wonderful children's book called My Shadow is Purple. The main character points out their mom's shadow is pink, but she's physically strong, and their dad's shadow is blue, but he cries at sad movies. That helped me realize gender isn't black and white. It's not chess. As for pronouns, I now realize they're not tied to gender identity. Just like gender identity, gender expression, sex assigned at birth, sexual orientation, and romantic orientation aren't tied to each other. So, I'm Tara, and my pronouns are she, her. But my Fursona and I are Enbys, not women. If that confuses people, that's okay. I'd rather be myself and help normalize Enbys and educate people about them than hide who I am and keep the cycle of shame going. Today, identifying as Enby just feels right to me. It's the best label for my mix of masculine features, like my voice, and feminine features, like my motherliness. It's like how my dad was naturally left-handed, but Grandpa only had a left-handed catcher's mitt, so my dad ended up playing sports with his right hand and doing everything else with his left. My mix of masc and femme isn't new. I just needed the right word for it and time to come to terms with it. It's the whole reason I made 2 Yoshi characters, a man and a woman, in the first place. If they ever argued about who should be my Fursona, my answer should have been, guys, you're both right. It's like an anime where one character gets split into 2. And then they fuse back together, bigger and better than before. And that's why I'm too fat for just one traditional corner of the gender spectrum. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment about how you found out how you identify. Like and subscribe for more. And remember, gender is whatever we make of it.